Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and this is a companion video. What is a companion video? I'm glad that you asked. You see, every day on the John Campea Show and sometimes on Open Mic, we take live questions from the audience, but sometimes we don't have time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in, but I want to make sure all those questions get answered, so I gather up those unused questions, and I address them here on video on the companion videos. And I'm so glad you're joining me here today. I'm recording this early Sunday morning, getting ready to go watch my Patriots unfortunately lose to the San Diego Chargers. I'm cheering for the Patriots, but there's something magic about that. Did I say San Diego? I'm always saying San Diego Chargers. There's something magic about the LA Chargers this year. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's the best season Phillip Rivers has ever had. And it's not the same Patriots team we've had in the past. Not the same Gronk, not the same Edelman, not the same Brady. So I actually think the Chargers are going to take it. But maybe by the time you see this, you'll know exactly what happened. So, hey, listen, we got a whole bunch of questions we've got to get to today. So let's start getting caught up. And the first one we're going to get caught up with today comes from Imad Abdelatif, who writes, over or under 60% that Spider-Verse gets an Oscar nomination for Best Score. The answer is actually zero. It is. It's a 100%, 0% chance that it gets. You see, the musical wing of the Academy, made up of composers and music writers for movies and all that kind of stuff, they already put out their short list for potential nominees, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse wasn't on the list, so there's actually a 0% chance that Spider-Verse gets an Oscar nomination for Best Score. All right, Jared's Reviews writes, Solo obviously was a huge disappointment at the box office. It is Star Wars, though, and do you think we will get a sequel to the movie? Had a fun ride watching. I don't think so. I thought Solo was great. But no, I mean, that's not how you do business. You don't do business by putting out a movie, the audience says we didn't want this movie, and they didn't come out to support it. You don't then run out and make a sequel. The fact that it's Star Wars, I think just kind of puts an exclamation point on that. You move on and you do something else. Now, don't get me wrong. I would love to see a Solo sequel. I really would. I thought the first one was great. I thought the whole cast was wonderful. I thought Ron Howard did a great job. But nobody wanted a Harrison Ford-less Han Solo movie. Nobody wanted it. And that showed. And so I don't think I don't think we ever will. I'll be happy if they say that we are. I'll be thrilled. But I don't think that that's going to happen, unfortunately. Too bad, too. All right, Kevin Rubio writes, how did Bohemian Rhapsody win Golden Globe in drama and Green Book in musical? Dude, don't even get me going on the Golden Globes, Kevin. Don't even get me going. You know my opinion of the Golden Globes. The Golden Globes are a joke. They are a joke. And just to emphasize one more time, look, you get the Academy Awards, right? Which are made up of 7,000 film professionals, writers, directors, actors, visual effects artists, editors, cinematographers, costume designers, studio executives, blah, 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 blah. You have the actors make up the acting wing, and the actors are the one who come up with the nominee list for Best Actor. Directors come up with a list for Best Directors. Musicians come up with the list of Best Score. Cinematographers come up with the list of Best. That's what you have. The Golden Globes is like a 65-member members of the Hollywood Foreign Press, which just happens to be film journalists who live in the United States, but their publications they work for are overseas publications. 65 of them. Which one of those two has more credibility? The Golden Globes have no credibility. None. They didn't put on a good show this year, but usually they put on a very good show. They normally put on a very good show. They didn't do that this year, but yeah, I mean, I have given up asking why when it comes to anything the Golden Globes do. And hey, I was one of the biggest defenders of Bohemian Rhapsody. I love that movie. It wins Best Drama. Come on. Really? It's a great movie. I loved it. I really did. You guys saw my review. You know I love this movie, but it's a joke. The whole thing is a joke. So why ask why about the Golden Globes? Like, seriously, why ask why? Okay, we move on. K Major writes, Yo, Geo, that jacket is awesome. Been admiring for a while. So obviously this was one that got sent in during the John Campea show. Probably the one brown leather jacket with the black hoodie underneath. I don't know. I thought it was a pretty plain jacket, but I don't know why. I've got other jackets I wear that I think are much better. But whenever I wear that one jacket, I get all this. I see, that's because I'm totally fashion blind. I have always been and will always be completely fashion blind because I look at that jacket and I think, it's just a comfortable throwaway thing. But every time I wear it, people are like, oh my God, I love that jacket. I'm like, really? I have no sense of fashion. None. That just goes to prove it. Keenan Haynes writes, well, I guess I was wrong about moving Aquaman from its December release date. This was the perfect time to release this movie. Never thought I would see an Aquaman movie wipe the floor with the Trinity. I disagree. I still believe 100%. Like, look, I always said Aquaman should move. But I also always said it's still going to be successful. It's going to be successful. But it should move because no matter how bad or how good it does at the box office, I've been saying this for a year, no matter how bad or how good it does at the box office, it could have done better if you put it in another date. I still firmly believe that. I still firmly believe that had you dropped Aquaman in a different date, there would have been dates that would have been worse, but there are dates that would have been more prime. I still believe to this day it would have done better, and you can't prove me wrong. I still believe that. I think, if it tops out at 1.1, 1.2, I think it could have topped out at 1.4, 1.5 billion. I still think it would have done better. And the fact of the matter is, while Spider-Man isn't a huge blockbuster, and while Bumblebee is not doing successful, and while Mary Poppins I thought was a pretty disappointing movie, fact of the matter is, those movies have combined made close to $1 billion. An additional $1 billion of box office was eaten up by films in the same release window as, pardon me, as, they didn't quite get $1 billion. You see what I'm saying? As Aquaman. That's unheard of. That's a lot of money left on the table. And I just really believe Aquaman could have done even better. Now, I'm thrilled for its success because I really like this movie. And I always knew it would be successful, but I didn't think it would be this successful. Like, no way did I think it would be this successful. But I still believe had they picked a better release date, I think it would have made even more. That's just what I think. All right, thanks for the comment, Keenan. All right, Rufino Salazar Jr. writes, the wife and I watched Searching last night, and we really enjoyed it. Keep the great job for a new year. Thank you so much, Rufino. Look, in case you guys didn't know, I got a bit of a cough, and I'm fine. I'm not sick at all, but I've got this cough. When I get this cough about once a year, it usually hangs in for 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. So I apologize. So just bear with me as I cough my way through the show. But at any rate, Searching for me was one of the more pleasant surprise movies of 2018. Surprising because, and you may have heard me talk about this before, but I thought the trailers were terrible. I didn't think the trailers made this movie look any good at all. And I really didn't feel like the trailers gave you a sense of the movie. And to me, it looked like an absolute throwaway movie. Well, the cast is great. The way the story's John Cho, Deborah Messing, the thing really surprised me. And it was a really, really good film. Now, there are some people who put it in like their top 5 films of the year. It wasn't quite that good to me, but still one of the more pleasantly surprising movies of the year. And I'm glad you enjoyed it, Rufino. All right. Sebastian writes, maybe critics should review the number 2 movie this weekend. Dude, I'm not going to sit here and go look it up. You name the movie. Don't leave it to me to go and look it up. Name the movie. So I'm sure whatever movie you're talking about, I'm sure the critics did review it though, Sebastian. All right. Chris Warden writes, congrats to all involved in Aquaman. The DCEU was on life support after Justice League, and this film delivered in a massive way. Well done to everybody. Well done to everybody indeed. Look, I got excited for Aquaman when they announced for the character, just when they announced Jason Momoa as Aquaman. Like, you go back, when they announced Jason Momoa as Aquaman, I'm like, damn right, that is a great casting. And then they announced James Wan was directing the movie. To me, that's the kill shot right there. Once they put James Wan on that, I'm like, yeah, this could be really good, because James Wan just knows how to deliver, not Oscar-winning stuff, but James Wan knows how to deliver some real audience-pleasing stuff. And he's done it very successfully in different genres as well. And I got really stoked when I heard he was directing that movie. And you know what? Yeah, congrats to everybody. Well deserved. Now, I'm not convinced that the DCEU is off life support yet. I want to see a strong follow-up with Shazam to show that this wasn't just a fluke. And I don't think it was. I think we're starting to see the new direction that Walter Hamada, the new head guy with the DC films, I believe in the direction he's going to be setting with this thing. So I don't believe this was a fluke. But just to feel more comfortable, I want to see Shazam. Now, Shazam doesn't need to make $1 billion. Shazam doesn't need to make $800 million. But I'll tell you what, Shazam comes out, makes a strong $500 million. That's pretty good. That's pretty damn good. And then I think we can start talking about DC is now out of their funk. Because I'll tell you what, if Shazam comes out and is quite good, it doesn't even have to be a masterpiece, just as long as it's quite good. If Shazam comes out and is quite good, that'll make 3 out of the last 4 DC films that are audience pleasers. Because the 4 last DC films are Wonder Woman, Justice League, which I liked, but not terribly many people liked, but I like Justice League, but whatever. Wonder Woman, Justice League, Aquaman, and Shazam. If Shazam can be really solid, that means you got Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Shazam, all good, and the one abbreviation in there is Justice League. That a lot of people didn't like. That's called being on a good streak. You hit 3 out of 4 movies, you're on a good streak, and we'll see how we're talking about the DCEU after that. All right, thanks a lot for the comment, Chris. Okay, Keenan Color writes, love the show, John. Thank you so much. Thoughts on the incredibly negative buzz surrounding Dark Phoenix? Insiders have been... Oh, no, they have not. Insiders have been comparing it to Batman versus Robin quality. First of all, nobody has seen the movie, okay? Insiders are saying that's bullshit. Bullshit. I said the exact same thing when insiders said that Wonder Woman is a disaster. Remember that? Insiders say, blah, blah, and it comes from none of the reliable major trades. Don't believe that nonsense. Don't believe it when they say, the insiders are saying Wonder Woman's a total disaster. And don't believe the insiders when they say, the insiders are saying the studio executives are giving Justice League a standing ovation. Never believe either of that. Never believe either of that. Unless it's the Hollywood Reporter saying, we have solid sources saying from inside Warner Brothers that Dark Phoenix is equal unto Batman versus Superman. Unless it's like the Hollywood Reporter Variety saying that, ignore it. Just ignore it. Now, I don't know how Dark Phoenix is going to be. Dark Phoenix might be the best comic book movie of all time. It might be the absolute worst. All I know is that insider reports, that didn't come from any major reliable trades, insider reports saying Warner Brothers execs think this is the greatest comic book movie ever at Justice League, and it wasn't. Insiders say that Wonder Woman right now is a complete disaster. No, it wasn't. Ignore it. Unless it comes from a true 100% reliable source like a Hollywood Reporter, a Variety, something like that, ignore it. Because it's always bullshit. It's always bullshit. The movie may turn out to be bad, but this report is still bullshit. No, it's not real. I don't believe it for a second. Not for a second. But that's just me. But you know me, I'm always telling people, ignore those. And you know what else you always ignore? Test screenings. Studios never release the results of test screenings. Ever. And anybody who sees test screenings sign NDAs out the ass so that if they do reveal what's in a movie they saw, they can be sued to Kingdom Come. So never believe these BS reports of test screenings. Bullshit. Never believe these reports of insiders say, is it coming from the Hollywood Reporter? Variety? Deadline? Is it coming from Entertainment Weekly? No? Oh, it's coming from Bob's blog? Ignore them. Just ignore that BS. So don't worry. Now, again, I don't know how this movie's going to be. I love the X-Men franchise. Fox has put out some tremendous X-Men films. X-Men 1, X-Men 2, X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, Logan. They have put out some tremendous X-Men films. If you want to count Deadpool and Deadpool 2, whatever. But X-Men Apocalypse was bad. And I have always been concerned about the fact that they've got Simon Kinberg directing. I am a Simon Kinberg fan. Be very clear about that. I am a Simon Kinberg fan. I geeked out a little bit when I got to first meet him. I am a Simon Kinberg fan, but he's never directed a film before, ever. And I'm always very, very hesitant when somebody's very first directorial effort is a big blockbuster tentpole kind of movie with high expectations. I would have liked to have seen them give Simon Kinberg a smaller film to direct first. Not like tiny indie, but like a $60 million movie, whatever. I would have liked to have seen them give Kinberg that first. But I don't know. Maybe he did a terrific job. I don't know. I haven't seen the film yet. Could be good, could be bad. We'll have to just wait and see. All right. Madhu Vatten writes, saw Gladiator for the first time. Ooh, I envy you because I can never watch Gladiator for the first time again. I love that movie. Gladiator for the first time this Christmas and loved it and made me very excited for the sequel. However, I'm afraid it will never happen. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, they're trying to get a sequel made. And for those of you saying, but so-and-so dies, yeah, it would be about, remember Caesar's daughter, Commodus' sister, that he was in love with. Anyway, she had a son, and I can't remember the son's name at this point. She had a little boy, little son. And apparently the sequel that they're trying to make is now revolves around that kid who is struggling between his two legacies. His uncle Commodus, who was an evil madman, and Uncle Maximus, who his mother loved. And on that, so I'll tell you what, when I first heard the idea that they wanted to do a Gladiator sequel, I thought, that sounds dumb. When I heard the description of what they were going to try, I thought, oh, wait a minute, time out. That actually sounds like it could be kind of interesting. Because now, however long after, and this kid might actually be Caesar now in the new movie, I don't know. So I know they're trying to get that made. Whether it actually gets made, Madhu, I agree. I have my doubts that it'll actually see the light of day, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed because, like I said, while I had a negative reaction to it at first, when I heard about what the idea of the movie would be, I actually got on board with it. So I hope it happens. Here's fingers crossed. All right. Matt Brown, Chargers at Pats. Yep, it's happening in just a couple of hours from when I'm filming this right now. Again, I do not have good thoughts I have great thoughts for my Pats, but I just don't think the Patriots can beat the Chargers this year. Here's hoping. Here's hoping. You're going to see a very happy John Campy if they do, but if I had to put $10 down on this game, I'm putting on the Chargers. Phillip Rivers is having a magic season. Maybe the best season of his career. Everything is just clicking for the Chargers right now. So let's find out what happens. Sebastian writes, my last pitch on A-List, last day to get $19.95 a month. Yeah, it's too late now. Unfortunately, when Sebastian put that in, it was the last day you could go. And if you got A-List, it locked you in for a year at $19.95 for A-List. I believe the price of A-List has gone up to like $23 or something like that, which again, to me, I have no issues with. Like, this deal is so good. This A-List deal is so ridiculously good. I have no qualms whatsoever with them jacking up their price. What is it? Like 5%, 10%? I have no problems with that. No problems. I think it's still, you get such incredible, they could jack that price up to $40 a month, and I still think it would be a great value. Not that I'm trying to give AMC any ideas. But thanks for sharing that, Sebastian. All right, Baby Boy 8603 writes, hey, John and Rob. Well, obviously, Rob's not here right now. I was sick over the holidays, but I got a chance to watch Star Wars 4, 5, and 6 for the first time. Even with being sick, I still enjoyed those movies. Ready to watch 7, 8, and 9. Yeah, personally, I would take a pass on 7, 8, and 9. Look, you know me. I love Star Wars, but that doesn't mean I love everything about Star Wars. All right? And to me, episodes 7, 8, and... we're talking about 7, 8, 9, not 1, 2, and 3. Well, there is no 9 yet. 9 is coming out at the end of the year. 7 is great. I unabashedly, 7 is fantastic. 8, I believe, is good, but it's very divisive amongst people, and even I, who think Star Wars The Last Jedi is good, even I have some issues with the film. So I'd be curious to know what you, a newcomer to the Star Wars world, would think of A Last Jedi. But that's a little bit more of a divisive one. And then we're all waiting to see what Episode 9 does. J.J. Abrams, who directed Episode 7, which was fantastic, we'll see what he does with Episode 9. We're a year away, but keeping my fingers crossed, man. And I hope you're feeling better, baby boy 8603. I hope you're feeling better over the holiday illness you got. I'm obviously still dealing with some of the repercussions of it. All right. Stubble McShave writes, Bumblebee was the casualty of the 2018 Hell Week. Not really. Because I'll tell you what. I'll be straight up honest with you here. Let me see here. I just want to get the exact number here for the Bumblebee box office. The Bumblebee box office... oh dear. As of right now, Box Office Mojo is offline. Oh, it's saying the site is being updated right now. Please try again in a few minutes. I'll come back and visit that in a second, but I believe it's around 300 million. I think it's what it made. I will tell you what, I don't think you could have opened that movie any other time and it would have made any more. That's just the reality of it. The Transformers franchise had become a joke to the majority of the movie-going audience. And I loved Bumblebee. I thought it was fabulous. I thought it was even better than Aquaman, and I really like Aquaman. Bumblebee was fantastic. So much better than I thought it would be. But the reality is that was a movie that Paramount knew was never going to make a lot of money. They knew that. Paramount knew that. It's just too much of an uphill fight to climb. It just was never going to do well. And it didn't matter when you released that movie. So... I honestly, it's like, I don't believe, unlike Aquaman, where I believe there are windows you could have released it and it may have done better. Oh, no, actually the numbers come up. It's now $364.7 million. Not horrible. Not horrible. Actually, at $135 million production budget, it's getting close to being breaking even. It's closing in on breaking even. It's still going to end up losing a little bit of money, I think, but it's closing in on breaking even. So not horrible. $364 million. Great. But I really just don't think you could have put Bumblebee anywhere and had it done any better. It's just the reality of the reputation that the Transformers franchise has at the moment. Now, Bumblebee is a great step to rehabilitate that image because it's great. Bumblebee's great. But again, it's just the reality of it. There are too many people who are like, it's another Transformers movie. No thanks. I paid money to go see 3 or 4 of them and they all sucked and I want nothing to do with this anymore. That's just the reality of where Bumblebee was. So I'll tell you what, at $364 million, I think Bumblebee may have done a little bit better than I was expecting it to. Which is great because, again, it's a great movie. But yeah, I just don't consider it to be a casualty of the Hell Week because it still made $364 million. And I don't think this is a movie you could have put anywhere that it would have done any better. So yeah, that's just my opinion on that, though, Stubble. All right. Stubbleman follows it up with Aquaman almost made 3/4 of its box office in foreign markets. It's true. Right now, we're going to talk about this here a second. Aquaman made... Oops, something bad happened. Something bad happened. Let me try this again. Aquaman. Ooh, well, man. Box office. I think Box Office Mojo right now is doing their weekend box office updates. And so a lot of their pages are coming up blank right now. Oh, no, there it is. Okay, so yeah, Aquaman, not quite 3/4. It made a touch more than 1/4 of its box office. But yeah, $287 million domestically. $287 million domestically. 713 internationally. That's huge. That's ridiculous. That is a massive disparity. But yeah, it is. I think there could be some really interesting. I would love to see some really true good from the studios, some really good analysis as to why the domestic box office didn't do nearly as well for Aquaman as the international box office did. I'd be very, very interested to see that. But yeah, it's a staggering number, Stubble, staggering number. All right. Rafael Estrada writes, what was the last time a Golden Globe went to a movie that probably won't even be nominated by the Academy? Oh, it happens all the time. But again, why ask anything about the Golden Globes? The Golden Globes are stupid. The Golden Globes are dumb. They have no credibility. It's not like the Academy, 7,000 film professionals of writers, directors, actors, cinematographers, editors, blah, 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 all with their respective branches nominating the nominees for their respective branches. 65 film journalists who just happen to live in the U.S., but also work for film publications and news publications that are outside of the US. The Hollywood Foreign Press. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Now, I can think of several examples off the top of my head. Like Jim Carrey one year won Best Actor and wasn't even nominated at the Academy Awards. Ben Affleck won Best Director, wasn't nominated at the Academy Awards. I can think of a few examples off the top of my head. I'm sure if I sat down and did a real list, I could probably come up with a few, but it's irrelevant. Again, like I said to Kevin's question, why ask why? When it comes to the Golden Globes, why ask why? They have no credibility whatsoever. Anyway, Matt Brown writes, but on Pretzel Day, well, I like Pretzel Day. I can see it. Nope. The Office. It's The Office. But on Pretzel Day, I like Pretzel Day. Yes. The Office. That was a good one, too. I still remember that episode. Michael Scott comes downstairs, all excited for a soft pretzel, and there's a lineup of like 30 people, and it's taking like 15 minutes for each person to get their own pretzel. Fabulous. I love that episode. That's great. Good quote. That's a deep cut. Tinus Flato Mendoza writes, saw a video on the message of Aquaman. Listen/conversation. Instead of fighting the Kraken creature, he listened. Even at the end, he tells his brother, when you're ready, we'll talk. Current climate, everyone's yelling, no listening. Well, here's the thing about that's a very nice sentiment, Tinus Flato. It's a very nice sentiment. However, what you're leaving out of that is before listening to the Kraken, he attacked the Kraken. He went into full-on battle mode with the Kraken and got beat around a lot and then finally said, okay, listen. Yes, he said to his brother, when you're ready, we'll talk, but that's only after engaging in the big climactic battle and beating the hell out of each other, right? So while I appreciate Tinus Flato, the sentiment of that, and I very much do, I appreciate the sentiment of it very, very much. Reality is the talking came after the fisticuffs. Like they threw down first. And then after they did the throwdown, then they talked and then they listened. So appreciate the sentiment, but I'm not so sure that Aquaman is a great example of that sentiment. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying I don't think Aquaman is a good example of that particular sentiment, but that's just me. Wesley Cunningham writes, any dark horses for the Oscars you feel aren't getting much attention but could win some major categories? Also hope you enjoy bringing in 2019. I've really loved 2019 so far. Real dark horses. Well, I think there's a couple that aren't getting a lot of discussion. First Reformed was a film that was getting a bunch of discussion, but seems to have disappeared. I still think I think there's a possibility it could get a Best Picture nomination. I think there's definitely a possibility that Ethan Hawke gets a Best Actor nomination for First Reformed. So there's some major ones there. Green Book is another one that seems to be flying under people's radars, and I don't know why. It's winning some big awards in some of the smaller award shows, but it seems to be flying under everybody's radar for some reason. Still, I think the two powerhouse names going into the Oscars this year, both films are going to have a lot of momentum, I believe, are Roma and A Star Is Born. Now, I'm not saying they're my picks, but I think those are the two films that are rolling into the Oscars with a lot of momentum, and I think you could see those two movies win a lot of awards, so we'll have to just wait and see. All right. Serban and Riaka, who writes, Aquaman is the best Marvel movie DC ever made. Well, you know what? I don't know. I mean, and I know you're putting a smile face. I know you're joking, but I'm hearing a bunch of people saying that, right? I don't find much Marvelism about Aquaman. I really don't. I mean, lighter tone. Oh, okay, but lots of movies have lighter tones. And there are a number of MCU movies that don't have a real lighter tone either. I thought Aquaman had its own very distinct DNA. I really do. I think it had its own distinct DNA about it. So I know you're joking, Serban, but I've been hearing a lot of people say it, but I'll say I disagree. Because, well, okay, is it lighter? Yes. Thousands of movies are lighter. That's not it. It still very much felt like it had its own DNA of the movie. It stands out quite uniquely. It's quite different from the other DCEU films, but I find it's also different from the MCU films. So I don't know that I would agree with that. That's just my personal opinion on that, though. All right. Where are we at? Holland Love writes, I bet a crazed mom group named Mimosas with Momoa is solely responsible for Aquaman's success. LOL. Welcome back, John and Robert Meyer Burnett, and Happy New Year to all. Well, thank you so much, Holland. And yeah, you know what the funny thing is? I was reading that there was a slight disparity between the amount of women and men. Not massive. I think it's like a 12% difference. But that women, particularly moms, 12% more moms went to go see Aquaman than dads. Again, that's not a big difference, not anything you can draw any big conclusions from. But yeah, I'm sure the dreaminess of Jason Momoa might probably had a little something to do with that. I wouldn't doubt that at all. Razor's Edge Frisbee writes, Robert, have you been keeping up with Doomsday Clock? Issue number 7 and 8 are so damn good. My apologies, Razors, but Robert's not here, so. But I'll tell you what, I'll ask him that. I'll ask him that when I talk to him next, see what he thinks. Wesley Cunningham writes, feelings on Alita Battle Angel upcoming box office. The total lack of buzz or I've heard about makes me feel like it may be another Mortal Engines. Yeah, I don't know. I am concerned about Alita Battle Angel. Now, I'll tell you this. I was not looking forward to Alita Battle Angel. Robert Rodriguez has been on a pretty bad streak. The first trailer I thought was terrible. So I had tuned out. But I'll tell you what, the last couple of Alita Battle Angel trailers have got me back on board. I am looking forward to this movie. I wasn't always, but I am now. I'm looking forward to this movie. That said, a first bad trailer can sink your movie. You know the old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression? I thought the first trailer was abysmal. I really did. I thought it was terrible. Now, you may have liked it, and that's fine. But I'm just telling you, I didn't like it, and I know a number of people didn't like it. And when you make a bad first impression, a lot of times people then just tune out of the movie. And new trailers come out, they don't care, blah, blah, blah. They've already tuned out. So, man, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't think we're going to see Mortal Engines kind of numbers, which were just terrible. But as of right now, if I had to put money on it, I'd say, yeah, this is going to flop. It's going to flop. Now, here's hoping that the movie is amazing and can generate some really good positive word of mouth amongst the critics and the audience. Here's hoping, fingers crossed. But as of right now, yeah, I'm predicting a little bit of financial disaster for this movie. Hope I'm wrong, but let's find out how that turns out. All right, let's move on here. Lyle Navin writes, with Aquaman's success, Warner Brothers should ask Henry and Ben to stay. Oh, no. The success of the MCU also helps with Aquaman. Well, yeah, the success, look, the health of the comic book genre will help comic book movies. It won't make or break them, but it will help. And certainly the success of the MCU helped Aquaman. Sure, yeah, it helped, but it's not the defining factor. If anything, Lyle, what the success of Aquaman will do is if, as I suspect, and well, in the case of Ben, I already know. With Henry, I suspect. In the case, if Warner Brothers is truly looking at moving on from Henry and Ben, the success of Aquaman, if anything, tells them that moving away from Henry and Ben is the right thing to do. That's what the results of Aquaman aren't making them go, oh, maybe we should keep Henry. No, it's making them even more go, yep, moving away from Henry and Ben is the right thing for us to do. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm not saying I agree with them on that. But what I am telling you is that that's what they're thinking. Warner Brothers is looking at that and saying, hey, look, we move away from Ben and Henry, and we get a massive hit in Wonder Woman, and we get a massive hit in Aquaman. And we'll see what happens with Shazam. But yeah, I'm just telling you what, the success of Wonder Woman and the success of Aquaman, and we'll see what happens with Shazam, but if Shazam's a success, it's not going to make them go, wow, we should really go back to Henry and Ben. No, they're probably going to be, look, when we move away from Henry and Ben, we get all these big hits. Again, I'm not saying I agree with them. I'm not. But if anything, that success is going to make them lean even more away from them. That's just my feelings on that. Let's see. Niall O'Toole writes, watch the new Mission Impossible and the Sisters Brothers back to back. Got a favorite? Cheers. Out of the two, yeah, Mission Impossible. I like the Sisters Brothers. it wasn't as good as I was hoping, because you hear that cast with Joaquin Phoenix, John C. Reilly, Riz Ahmed. I'm thinking Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm thinking masterpiece. It was good. It was worth watching. It totally was worth watching. I didn't think it was great. Mission Impossible was great. Not my favorite of the Mission Impossible movies, but great nonetheless. And so, yeah, out of those two, yeah, I'm going to go with Mission Impossible. Good doubleheader, though. Curtis Lopez writes, do you think the reason Oscar ratings are declining each year is because moviegoers not in our circle just don't care about the Oscar-buzzed films today? Probably. Like, the reality is, back in the day, the best films of the year are what attracted people. It's not as much that today. Today, the best films of the year are not necessarily the ones that attract out the big audiences. Like Moonlight, which, other than Logan, I thought was probably the best film of the year last year, other than Logan. And Moonlight won Best Picture, but nobody saw Moonlight. Now, should the Oscars, as some idiots suggest, well, then if the movie's not popular and didn't make a lot of money, it shouldn't be nominated. The nominations are supposed to be about the best, not about which one made the most money. It's supposed to be what's the best. Moonlight was one of the best. Yeah, it didn't bring out the audience, but that's just kind of the age we live in right now. And I'm sure that has something to do with it. But listen, don't underestimate how many people watch the Oscars. Like, I read some idiots online who go, well, nobody watches the Oscars. Okay, want a little bit of an example, an illustration here? Okay. Game of Thrones Season 7 season finale was the highest rated Game of Thrones episode in history. And everybody watched Game of Thrones. All told, including DVR watching and post-streaming watching, the season finale of Game of Thrones episode season 7 got 16 million viewers. All right? 16 million. Last year, which was one of the lowest rated Oscars they've had in ages, Game of Thrones season 7 season finale, 16 million viewers. Oscars, 27 million viewers. I'm just putting that up to put it in context. So when you hear people say, nobody watches the Oscars, actually, more people watch the Oscars than anything else. So yes, but the numbers are declining. And I think it has something to do, Curtis, with that disparity between back in the day, people went out to see the best movies. Today, not so much, not as much. And I believe it's going to be a trend, like things come and go. And I believe there will be a reversal of that trend at some point. But yeah, right now, that's it. Curtis follows up with, it's not the Academy's fault. They are recognizing the best. 10 to 15 years ago, Best Picture nominees were wide films that moviegoers also recognized. True. That kind of what I just kind of said, Curtis. Curtis then follows up one more time with, but with the rise of indie films and getting limited releases in art houses, theaters, it doesn't really give people a drive to seek them. True. No, I agree with that. Because a lot of these films, some of the best films of the year, are films that studios know not a lot of people are going to go watch. Even though this movie, whatever this movie is, whether it's a First Reformed, or whether it's a You Were Never Really Here, or whether it's a Moonlight, or whether it's a If Beale Street Could Talk. Sometimes they look at those and goes, okay, this movie is a masterpiece. But we know with today's market, we can't put together a marketing campaign for this that's going to bring out a lot of people to see it. So we'll just do the indie release thing. We'll do limited release. We'll do this and that and the other thing and blah, 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 blah. And then the Academy, whose job it is to recognize the best, they don't care whether a movie made $200 million or whether a movie made $2 million. That's not their concern. Their concern is what was the best. And there's a disparity in there. And that's okay. I think that's okay. I want the Oscars to continue to focus on the best and let the rest kind of shake itself out. Speaking of Oscars, ZOMG Ruler writes, boycotting Oscars. Juan and company worked hard on ZMG Ruler. Come on, my friend. My brother in film fandoms. What are you talking about? That is dumb. That is dumb. First of all, every director and visual effects group worked hard on their films. Now, for those of you who don't know what ZMG Ruler's talking about, as I mentioned before, in the Academy, visual effects artists make up the visual effects branch. And that's made up of visual effects professionals. They put together the short list of the 10 films that may end up getting one of the 5 nominations for Best Visual Effects. One of those films was not Aquaman. So Aquaman's not getting an Academy Award nomination for Best Visual Effects. And I'll tell you what, you've heard Robert and I both talk about this. I loved Aquaman. Robert loved Aquaman even more than me, and both Robert and I agree it doesn't deserve a Best Visual Effects nomination. There's a lot of visual effects and a lot of pretty good visual effects in Aquaman. Doesn't deserve a nomination. Doesn't. As somebody who worked in visual effects, and I'm sure there are some other people who worked in visual effects that may disagree with me, but I worked in visual effects and I watched Aquaman and I'm like, okay, everything looks good, but I never once felt like, wow, my mind is blown by the visual of this. I was never blown away by it. Not that it was bad. It wasn't bad. It was solid. It was good. But there are a lot of other visual effects movies, and like I said, the branch of the Academy that looks after these visual effects nominations are all visual effects professionals. And they seem to have agreed with me. So this whole thing of, well, they didn't agree with you, ZMG Ruler, that Aquaman was one of the best visual effects movies. So out of the 27 categories, because one movie isn't going to get a nomination that you want it to get nominated for, that a bunch of visual effects artists don't think deserves to be nominated, you're going to boycott the Oscars because they didn't agree with an opinion you had? That's ridiculous. And I say that in all love, my film-loving brother, ZOMG. You're a longtime viewer here. You know I love you, but come on, man, that's dumb. Sometimes brothers got to say the hardest things to brothers. And I'm going to tell you a hard thing. That's dumb. That's dumb. Their opinion wasn't the same as mine. I'm going to boycott the show. Come on. Come on. That's ridiculous. And I'll tell you what, because I don't even think it deserved nomination. Look, had Aquaman made that short list, I might have mentioned that I don't agree, but I wouldn't have complained. It would have been, all right. You want to put Aquaman? Sure, it's got tons of visual effects in it, but all right. I wouldn't have complained. But I feel like it was the right choice not to have it on there. It was the right choice. A lot of visual effects, but nothing that ever made me go, wow. And there are a lot of movies that had some visual effects that made me go, wow, this year, and Aquaman wasn't one of them. Solid visual effects, totally did the job, but never went above and beyond, But anyway, that's just my opinion on that, ZOMG Ruler. But there's going to be lots of categories every year at the Academy Awards, because all films subjective you're not going to agree with. Should everybody boycott? Because in Best Short Documentary, they didn't nominate my favorite short documentary. I'm boycotting. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Come on, my friend. All right. Curtis Lopez writes, can you repeat, pardon me, guys, can you repeat word for word the Eminem cell phone ad that plays all the time in theaters? You're talking about the one like when they're all strapped to the missile? Really? Now you let your cell phone go off? The answer to that question is no. I can't repeat it word for word. But you raise a great point, Curtis. That commercial plays so often before a movie, you would think I could repeat it word for word. But actually I can't. But yeah, man, that plays all the time. Anthony R. writes, do you think DC secretly has solo Batman and Superman movies planned, but we're waiting for Aquaman results and the soon-to-come Shazam results? Nope, not at all. 100% no. First of all, what you're describing, Anthony, is the old mindset of DC, which is reactionary. So like, okay, we have a plan. Wait a minute, this movie made a little bit less money than we're expecting. Change everything. That was DC in the past. Completely knee-jerk reactionary. That is not what Walter Hamada is going to do with DC. Walter Hamada is, and I'll tell you what, If Aquaman made $300 million instead of $1 billion, he would still stick to his plan. Because it made $1 billion, it ain't going to make Walter Hamada change his plan. They have their plans and they ain't changing it, and it had nothing to do with, we have a plan, but we're too scared to implement it. Let's wait to see how the next movie does. And it didn't do as we expected. Change everything. That's DC's past. And part of the reason why they struggled. They were always completely reactionary. I think they have moved beyond that. And as we mentioned a little bit earlier, I think successes of movies like Wonder Woman, successes of Aquaman, hopefully the success of Shazam is actually going to embolden them and make them go, yeah, we got the right plan and we're moving away from Batman and we're moving away from Superman. And I still believe we're going to get a Batman movie with Matt Reeves at some point. I'm having my doubts lately, but I still think it's going to happen. So, yeah, no, I don't think they're just secretly planning it and waiting to see the results. No, that's how failures would plan their movie strategy. That's how DC used to plan their movie strategy. And I believe they have graduated out of that. I believe they've evolved out of that. I believe they've got more common level-headed people running that show now. And I think you're going to see great success coming. I really do. All right, what's next here? Johan Oglen writes, I like Lady in the Water, not even sorry about it. Well, you know what, Johan? You know me. I have the unholy trinity of the 3 all-time worst, big-budget, wide-release Hollywood films. And that unholy trinity is Catwoman, Highlander 2, and Battlefield Earth. But I said before, if there was a 4th spot, which there's not, I would be very tempted to put Lady in the Water in there. I think it is one of the biggest crimes against humanity, that movie, that has ever existed. However, all film's subjective, man. And if you watched Lady in the Water and it worked for you, no need to even be sorry about it. If it worked for you and you liked it, that's all that matters, man. I hate it. That doesn't mean you should hate it. If you watch it and liked it, then you watch it and like it, man, and good on you. All right. Godzilla Loves Sushi writes, Warner Brothers just cast Godzilla as Batman. Wouldn't doubt it. I mean, wouldn't that be interesting? I would watch that movie, Godzilla. I would watch that movie. Connor Dixon writes, Nick Offerman is Jeff Bridges' brother in Bad Times. It's been a while. I don't remember that. I love Nick Offerman, who is one of my all-time favorite television characters, Ron Swanson in Parks and Rec. I don't remember. I don't remember that. It's been a little while since I've seen Bad Times, so I don't remember that. But now I got to look that up because that's interesting to me because I really like Nick Offerman. Trip Mac writes, John, I started Lucifer and I love it, so entertaining. Dude, don't even get me started on Lucifer. I could talk Lucifer all frickin' day. All day I could talk Lucifer. I love that show. So distraught when they canceled it. So happy when Netflix saved it. Now we're just waiting to see the kind of return it has. I'm a little bummed out that it's only going to get like 12 episodes season. I love the 20 plus episode seasons of Lucifer. But that's Netflix, right? They don't do 20 plus episode seasons. So that's fine. I cannot wait for this thing to come back. They've already finished filming season 4. Cannot wait to see this thing. Mark C. writes, Geoff Johns and John Burke's true first DC film was Aquaman, not Justice League. Did Warner Brother fire them too soon? No. Geoff Johns and John Burke had very little to do with the success of Aquaman. They were removed well before that movie was ever completed, and Walter Hamada's kind of oversight took in. Geoff Johns, was one of the guys who's credited. Some people say Geoff Johns wrote Aquaman. No, he did not. Geoff Johns did not write Aquaman. Is all about James Wan. It's all about James Wan. And Geoff Johns did not write Aquaman. But John, if you look up on IMDb, it says Geoff Johns wrote it. Dig in a little bit deeper. There are 2 different sets of people that get writing credit. One is the true writers. Those are the screenplay people, the people who actually write the screenplay. Then there's another credit that gets given to story by, which I don't think they should list under writers on IMDb. Story by simply means this. Okay. Here, we got this idea for a movie. It's going to be Aquaman. His mother abandons him because she has to go back to Atlantis. Years later, his brother Orm, this is right out of comic books, his brother Orm is threatening a war against the ocean. Aquaman needs to go back and challenge his brother and retrieve the great trident that is his ultimate real Aquaman, Legendary Trident. If you just sit down and say that, that's story by. Doesn't mean you wrote the movie, it's story by. Now, the real work has to be done. Screenwriters take that story and actually have to write the script, the 120 pages. Yeah, good. You sat down and came up with a 5-paragraph thing. Anybody can come up with a good 5-paragraph thing. Or, a 5-line paragraph. Anybody can sit down and come up with an interesting 5-line paragraph. The actual work of writing is the screenwriters. And they got to sit down, they got to flesh that thing out and make it work and blah, blah. And then the real job is then the director to take this theoretical thing, these pages, and actually make it into a visual story. So no. They never should have had Geoff Johns in that position in the first place. He's a great comic book guy. He's not a movie guy. And the success of Aquaman has very little to do with Geoff Johns or John Burke, to be honest. So no, I don't think they released them too soon, not at all. Jethro Ow writes, Aquaman, B-list hero who is basically a joke following Justice League. A commercial disappointment, makes more money than Superman and other established heroes. What factors led to this unexpected success? Well, I don't think he was a joke after Justice League. I think people liked him quite a bit. I know I loved him in Justice League. I love the Aquaman character in Justice League, but that doesn't change your point. For a very long time, Aquaman is considered a joke amongst the superheroes, right? And B-list hero at best. I think there are two big things that led to its unexpected success. One was, and I talked about this on the John Campea show, but one was a move Warner Brothers made that I criticized, and a lot of us criticized, that actually ended up being the most brilliant thing they did. And that was having a full year in between Justice League and Aquaman coming out. Because a lot of people, including this guy right here, said, this is dumb. Why are you waiting an entire year? You're going to have 3 Marvel movies come out before Aquaman comes out. This is dumb. Why wait so long? Blah, blah, blah. Guess what? They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. They knew they needed, and I didn't see this at the time, which is why these are the guys who make the big bucks. They knew we need a little bit out of sight, out of mind. We need to give a breather because the reputation and everything that came out of Justice League, and we knew how it was going to end up and blah, 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 blah. We needed a period of time between Justice League and Aquaman to kind of let it get out of people's heads. I think that a move I criticized harshly, and I know a lot of you guys criticized it harshly too, actually ended up being one of the most brilliant things they've ever done. It was a great move, and kudos to them for that. Bravo. It actually ended up being brilliant. The second thing was, it's all about the director, man. It's all about the director. They brought in a celebrated director who made really crowd-pleasing movies, who delivered. And, it's just one of those things. I just think people were wanting another great DC movie again. And when you give it to them, they supported it. The audience supported it. Didn't matter if they were DC fans or Marvel fans or whatever. We were comic book movie fans and movie fans, and people supported it. So yeah, I think the two biggest factors there are that 1-year break they gave the DCEU, which is brilliant, and the second was all about getting in the right director. It's always about the right director, man. And I think those are the two biggest factors there. And then, of course, they put together a terrific marketing campaign. Right from that first trailer that dropped at Comic-Con that I thought won Comic-Con last year, and they put together and orchestrated a fantastic marketing campaign. So yeah, there are several factors that go into it, but those are the ones that I think are the biggest ones. All right. Henry Johansson writes, Dark Phoenix delayed to allow Disney to cancel it? No, that's a ridiculous, stupid notion. I've heard some people floating that rumor. You got to be a moron to believe that. They have already spent hundreds of millions of dollars to make this movie. And now we're not going to, and now all you can do now is put it in the theaters and get some of that and get a bunch of that money back. Even if it flops, let's say it makes $100 million at the box office. Well, that's $100 million more than you would have if you just cancel it. It's already shot. They've already spent all the money. The only money that's left to spend now is on the marketing campaign. But this movie will more than make its money from the marketing campaign. Even if this movie's a flop, it'll make more than whatever you spend on the marketing for it. So yeah, Disney, they delayed it just so Disney could throw money away? Throw free money away? Idiotic. No. Look, if they delayed it and they hadn't started shooting it, or they hadn't finished shooting it, maybe you could suspect that. Fact of the matter is, the movie's shot, its reshoots are done, all that kind of stuff. It's all done. It's all done. You spent the money. It's spent. What's the upside of not putting it in theaters? None. No upside. The only way you could justify it is by suggesting that worldwide, X-Men Dark Phoenix can't make as much as the marketing budget would cost. And the marketing budget probably be about $80 million. So let me look it up here. Let me just bring up a movie that I thought was bad. X-Men Apocalypse. X-Men Apocalypse, a bad movie, made $543 million. $543 million. I think Dark Phoenix could be the worst film in the history, and it'll make $275 million in its sleep. So no, it's a ridiculous notion that it was delayed just to allow Disney to cancel it, because Disney doesn't want free money. There is no logical way. There is simply no logical way to believe that they delayed it so Disney could cancel it. You got to be a special kind of naive for that. So no, I don't think that at all, Henry. So you hear anybody else saying that, man, just dismiss it. Dismiss it, dude, because you're smarter than that. All right. Let's see here. Henry L. Johansson writes, 10 comic movies first half of year, only Joker after. No, that's not true. Remember, the first half of the year is January through June, and we have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Homecoming. We've got Joker is one, but there's a third. Hold on a second. Let me bring this up here. Comic book movies 2000. I know there's 3 of them that come in July or afterwards. There's at least 3 of them. So prior to the middle of the year, we got Glass, we got Captain Marvel, we got Shazam, we got Hellboy, we've got Avengers 4, and we got Dark Phoenix. So that's 6 or 7. But then in the second half of the year, we have Spider-Man Far From Home. New Mutants was the one I was thinking about. We got Spider-Man Far From Home, we got New Mutants, and we've got Joker on October 3rd. So yeah, it is front end heavy. There are more superhero films opening in the first half, but more than just Joker in the second half. We got Spider-Man, we got New Mutants, and we've got Joker. So still unbalanced, but not quite as unbalanced as you thought, Henry. Dallin Rawwell writes, Highlander is one of my favorite all-time, but I'm super worried about that rumored reboot. Hard to replace the American treasure that is Clancy Brown. Look, I love Clancy Brown as the Kurgan. I love Clancy Brown as the Kurgan in Highlander. I totally do. But the Kurgan wasn't one of the all-time great, and I love Clancy Brown, but the Kurgan isn't one of the top 5 all-time great villains. I think you can do a different incarnation of Kurgan, and you can get somebody else in who would do a really good job. You know who I think would be a great Kurgan? Winston Duke, who's going to be starring in that upcoming Jordan Peele movie, Us, and he's M'Baku in the MCU. He would be a great Kurgan. But there are lots of guys who could be a great Kurgan. But I don't even know that this reboot's happening. Look, one of the John Wick directors has been developing a Highlander reboot. And he keeps saying he's working on it. But they've been talking about it for years, and nothing has transpired. Then even before that, Ryan Reynolds was attached to star in a Highlander reboot years ago. Never materialized. I actually have a feeling, Dallin, that this is a movie that's never actually going to happen. I'm curious to see if it does. And I'll certainly give it a chance. Highlander, the original Highlander with Christopher Lambert and Clancy Brown and Sean Connery, is one of my top 10 all-time favorite films. Has been almost my whole life. I love that movie. Highlander 2 is awful, but the first one is amazing. I'd be down for seeing what they could do with a reboot. It might suck. It might be great. Who knows? But I'd be curious to see what they would do. All right. Josh DeRose writes, day 499 without Game of Thrones. Still no trailer. As far as first world problems go, this is inhumane. Well, yeah, but look, we know it's coming. It's coming in May? April or May? One of the two. So February, March, April, May. So we're 4 or 5 months away. It's a TV show. It doesn't need a trailer. I mean, we'll get trailers, and we've been getting little glimpses of things, but it'll come soon enough. It'll come soon enough. But yeah, it is crazy that they put this long. But, we're hearing they put a lot of effort in these final 6 episodes. I still think they should have minimum done 8 episodes. You had a real loyal fan base for years and years and years. I think you owe them more than just a 6-episode season finale, but whatever. As long as it's great, then that's all that really matters. But it's coming. Don't worry. Not a lot longer to wait, Josh. Not a lot longer to wait. All right. So, Leander writes, I don't see anyone complaining that more women have gone to see Aquaman than men, which proves sex sells. Really? That's your conclusion? I want the same silence for Birds of Prey. Well, okay, look. Leader, it's not some earth-shattering thing to say sex sells. Sex has always sold. Sex always sells. Sex sells. It does. It just does. But there wasn't a massive disparity between the number of women and men. Like if we're talking like 70% of the Aquaman audience was women and only 30% were men, then there's a deeper philosophical conversation to have about what does this mean, from a sociological point of view. But I think it's like a 12% difference. So I don't think there's any big definitive moral of the story that we have to take away from that. Sex sells? Yes, always has. With women, romance sells. I read some studies saying they just thought the romance between Aquaman and Mera is what drew people in. Having Nicole Kidman in there, which a lot of women like in movies, and I love Nicole Kidman. Probably had something to do with it. Jason Momoa being the most charming SOB probably on the planet. I don't know who's got this more raw charisma right now, whether it's Jason Momoa or Dwayne The Rock Johnson. It's probably still Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but man, Momoa comes close, dude. Momoa comes close. All right. Niall O'Toole writes, hey lads, love the show, but I was just wondering if Rob is still in the movie business, producer, writer, etc. Keep bringing the filthy. Yes. When Rob is not down at the Stream.tv studios with me doing the John Campea show, he is busy producing, editing. He's still in the film business. He's actually been working on this sci-fi short film that he's a producer and an editor for. And he's got this feature-length indie film that he's been working on called Tango Shalom, which they've been working on. They're getting ready to debut at some film festivals and stuff like that. So, yeah, he's still plugged in. Rob is still a busy little bee plugged into all this stuff. He's great. He's very much an insider in the industry. Let's see. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, did you see Welcome to Marwen? Critical reception has been pretty goddamn sour, and the box office is abysmal, even though its budget is half of Venom's. Never did. And the reason I didn't go is because I am a massive fan of Stephen Carell. I'm a huge fan of Steve Carell. And I was excited for Welcome to Marwen. But then when I started hearing people I know and trust say this movie sucks, and I was like, I can't bear to watch it then. I can't, it would disappoint me so much. And this wasn't just random, like these are people I know and I trust and I have some association with their opinions as well. It's like, oh, okay, well if you didn't like, so I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And which sucks because I was so excited for that movie. But my heart couldn't take it. I just would have broke my heart to watch and be disappointed with it. So I decided to take a pass. Now, I'll probably one night, once it hits Google streaming or something like that, I'll probably take an evening and sit down and watch Welcome to Marwen. Just so I have a stop button so I could stop it if I want to. But when that happens, I'll check it out. But no, I haven't checked it out, though. Leander writes, I believe Aquaman benefited from his introduction in Justice League just as much as Wonder Woman in Batman vs. Superman and Black Panther in Civil War. Next up soon, Man of Steel 2. Don't hold your breath for Man of Steel 2. But I don't think there's any denying that Jason Momoa was really good in Justice League. And I liked the way they characterized his character. I liked Aquaman a lot in Justice League, and I think a lot of people did. I think there's a lot of people who maybe didn't like Justice League, but liked Aquaman in Justice League. You know what I'm saying? I think there were a number of people who didn't like Justice League, but liked Aquaman in Justice League. Now, I don't think Aquaman benefited as much as, say, a Black Panther did, because not only was Black Panther great in Civil War was a great movie that people beloved. So I believe he got a little bit more of a push from that. But yeah, I don't think there's any denying that having Wonder Woman appear in Batman vs. Superman, whereas maybe it really didn't serve the story all that much in Batman vs. Superman, it certainly helped Wonder Woman standalone movie. Having Black Panther in Civil War absolutely went a long way for helping its box office when it came out. And yeah, I think having Aquaman in Justice League, while I don't think as big of an impact as Black Panther in Civil War, it certainly did have an impact. Of that, I have no doubt. It certainly had an impact. How big is maybe up for a little bit of debate, but there's that. And you know, that's one of the reasons why when we talk about Captain Marvel, you know, I think Captain Marvel's box office will come in closer to Ant-Man's box office numbers than it will to Black Panther's box office numbers, specifically because we've never seen Captain Marvel before. Other than her logo popping up on Nick Fury's pager, we didn't see or hear about or talk about Captain Marvel in Avengers Infinity War. Had Captain Marvel been in Infinity War and then you did a Captain Marvel movie, big up for the box office. But she wasn't. Much like we didn't see Doctor Strange in anything prior to the Doctor Strange movie, and Doctor Strange made good money. Let me just look this up here. Doctor Strange box office. Doctor Strange, I believe, made around $700 million. Doctor Strange made $677 million. That's around the Ant-Man numbers. So I just think Captain Marvel's going to lean that way. I'm not saying it's not going to make more than that. It could make 700, could make 800. But even at 700 or 800 million, that's closer to Ant-Man and the Wasp than it is to Black Panther. And that's why I think that for Captain Marvel. But yes, absolutely. I do believe Aquaman definitely benefited from his appearance in Justice League. If Justice League had been more welcomely received, you might have even seen bigger numbers for Aquaman. So not as big of an impact as Black Panther, but still an impact, and I agree with you there, Leander. I think it's a good observation. All right, let's move on here. Krypton Cage writes, what do you think about Snyder's Stone Quarry? Okay, for those of you who don't know, Zack Snyder has always had a production company. It was called something Bad Things, or I can't remember. He's always had a production company. There are some people saying, Zack Snyder just launched a production company. Actually, no, he just renamed his production company to Stone Quarry. Was it called Very Bad Things? I can't remember, but he already had his production company. It's been around for a long time. But he just rebranded it and renamed it. And they renamed it Stone Quarry, and that's fine. That's great, but it's not like it's anything new. It's just a new name. So, and it's not, actually, I like the name. I do. I think I preferred his old name. I'm trying, what was the damn name of his company again? Hold on a second. Zack Snyder Production Company. It was a good name too. Cruel and Unusual. Not Very Bad Things. It was Cruel and Unusual Films. And had this great logo of this little girl with an axe was the logo. I'm going to see if I can bring up this picture here. I'm not sure that I can actually. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get this. That's the logo right there. I think that's awesome. Cruel and Unusual Films, little girl with the tie and a. I think that's great. But okay, he wanted to go with Stone Quarry. I think it's a good name. I think it's a good name. But again, nothing really new to talk about here. Where are we at? Scooter Mattoon writes, I'm aware you guys love The Last Jedi. Well, I really like The Last Jedi. I just have too many issues with it to say that I love it, but I'm on the positive end of things. So is Rob. Why no plot cliffhangers? Oh, there's certainly plot cliffhangers. Rey moves to the dark side would have been fun. Yeah, but predictable. Seems like JJ has a lot to do in one movie. Yeah, he definitely does have a lot to do in one movie. And that's fine. You can do that. Not a big issue. Rey moves to the dark side. Look, I would have been as down with that as anybody else, but everybody was saying it, so it kind of would have become really predictable. And if it doesn't fit the story, then why do it? So, and I think there were many cliffhangers in that. Like, what the hell? Where's Luke? What happens to the Resistance now? What happens now to the First Order post Supreme Leader Snoke? Where does all that? I think there are a lot of dangling plot threads there that they get to pull on now in Episode 9. Just not the one you were looking for. But again, I would say I wouldn't say I love The Last Jedi. I have my issues with it. But at the end of the day, it's still good, and I've watched it about 8 times, and my opinion has kind of just stayed kind of the same. It's good. I got my issues with it though. One thing I'll say is this: the more I watch The Last Jedi, the more I love the things they did well. I love what they did with Luke. I just feel like people who complain about Luke in this movie don't understand Luke. And I would love to have a thorough discussion, but I'm quite often it's like, well, Luke did this in Last Jedi. Did you never see Empire Strikes Back? Luke would never do that. Did you never see Star Wars? I mean, that's just kind of my opinion, but whatever. But also, while every time I watch The Last Jedi, I like the things that they did right even more, I also find myself disliking the things they did badly even more. The whole Canto Bight thing, the whole thing with the Benicio del Toro character was a waste. I thought they truly wasted really good characters with Finn and Rose. There's just a number of things. So my opinion of the movie stays the same because the things I like even more, but the things I dislike even more. But it still kind of averages itself out. All right, where are we at here? Carlo Eskimo writes, Walk Hard is such an underrated movie. What do you guys think? Oh, I like Walk Hard a lot. Which is, of course, a spoof with John C. Reilly of Walk the Line with Joaquin Phoenix as a biopic of Johnny Cash. Walk Hard is a spoof of that and spoofing a bunch of different things. Yeah, I'll say it's underrated. I don't think it's one of the greatest ever, but it's really funny. It's really funny. It's really good. And I'll say underrated in the sense that I don't think it gets enough credit. I don't think it deserves all the credit in the world, but I don't think it gets enough for what it deserves because it's quite a funny movie. And John C. Reilly's fantastic in it. Jake Roofer writes, thoughts on Zach Levi in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel Season 2. I loved it. Haven't seen it yet. I've watched the first episode. Ann and I had a chance to finally watch the first episode when we were in Canada. Haven't had a chance to watch the second episode yet. So I know he's in season 2. And for those of you who don't know, Zachary Levi is Shazam in the upcoming Shazam movie. So I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing him in it. But I haven't seen it yet, so I can't comment on it. Okay. Opinionated Uploads writes, I'm not much of an Aquaman fan, but I can't help but feel so genuinely happy for the fans of this underdog of underdogs. Aquaman fans needed this win, and I'm glad that we get to participate in their happiness. U2 rock, by the way. Yeah, U2's my all-time favorite band. And no, I'm just always happy when a good movie has success. It's always good to see. Because quite often there are really good movies that do not have success. There are really great movies that get made that do not get anywhere near the success levels they deserve. And quite often will flop or whatever, and it's really a shame. So when you get a good movie like Aquaman, that's good and fun and like a new direction for things, for them to get success is really good. And you're right, there is a long-suffering DC fan base that have been really, we got a win with Wonder Woman, which is great, but then they had the big disappointment with Justice League with the results of it and everything. But for them now to have a really good win with Aquaman, I think is great. I think it's great, and so it's a two-pronged victory, I think. You always got to like it when a good film gets success, and you got to love it when a long-suffering fan base can have something to cheer about. Kind of like being a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. Finally having something to cheer about this year is always kind of nice. Let's see. Tim Rico writes, Hey JC, the other one. Oh yeah, I'm the other JC. A great show. Love the duo. Please need an Ann Needs Sustenance t-shirt. Oh, I know what that. Okay. So here's the story behind that. When I was in Canada over the holidays, I did a couple of open mics from Canada, right? And this one open mic went particularly long. Like it went like over 2 hours because just people were sending in tons and tons and tons of questions. And my family, I told them I'd be about an hour and it was over 2 hours. My family was waiting. My mom, my dad, Anne and Ray were all waiting for me to finish so we can go have lunch. They were waiting for me to go have lunch and I was over an hour late. So I was still doing the show. So Anne finally wrote in on the super chat. Anne wrote on the super chat. She got on her phone, put in a super chat and wrote, "So hungry, need sustenance." So that's where that comes from. And everybody got a big kick out of that. That's what Tim's talking about. You're right. And I need to get that shirt. And needs to get that t-shirt. Thanks for remembering that, Tim. All right. Let's see. Chris Torres writes, "How awesome. Sam Jackson in 4 superhero movies." Well, Sam Jackson's in a hell of a lot more than 4 superhero movies. Do you mean 4 franchises? I don't know if he's in 4 franchises. I mean, he's in The Incredibles. He's in the Incredibles franchise. He's in Glass, that universe. And he's in the MCU. What's the 4th? If you're just talking about movies, he's in a hell of a lot more than that. If you're talking about superhero franchises, I can think of 3. Is there more? Incredibles, Glass, MCU. Maybe I'm missing one. If I'm missing one, jump into the comment section. Let me know. Matthew Leach writes, "Don't forget the female lead film in the John Wick universe called Ballerina they are working on." Yeah, but that was over a year and a half ago that we first heard about that, and nothing has happened on it since. So for those of you who don't know what Matthew's talking about a year and a half ago, reports came out that Lionsgate was looking at developing a spin-off to the John Wick movie, but with a female assassin in the lead. It was going to be called Ballerina, which is a really cool idea. But that was a year and a half ago. And I've heard nothing in that time. I've heard nothing. Like, not a thing. So I don't even know if that's something they're still working on. I mean, maybe they are. Maybe a piece of news dropped recently that it just kind of flew under my radar. But off the top of my head, I don't even know if something they're working on. I know they're still working on that TV series, the Continental TV series, which I'm excited about. But yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not even sure if that Ballerina. I hope it does because it sounds interesting to me, but right now I'm just not sure. Matthew Leach follows that up with, "Snyder did announce his new production company." Again, it's not really a new production company. It's just renaming his old one, which I dig Stone Quarry. It's a cool name, but man, that Cruel and Unusual Films name with that logo, I thought was awesome. But they wanted to rename it, so they renamed. But again, not really a new production company. And then final question of the day comes to us from Godzilla Loves Sushi, who writes, "Robert Godzilla will be in Game of Thrones next season." I don't know what that means, Godzilla Loves Sushi, but I'm happy it makes you happy. All right, guys, that will do it for all the getting caught up with right now. For those of you who might go, "Hey, wait a minute, I thought there were more questions." There are, but we've run out of time right now. So I'm going to do another companion video this weekend as well. So keep your eyes open for that. Listen, guys, thanks for being here. Don't forget, Robert Meyer Burnett and I will be back for the next episode of the John Campea Show every day, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on. Make sure you come and join us there. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.